What's up, everyone, and welcome to Mind Your Mental. I'm your host, Dr. Raquel Martin, licensed clinical psychologist, professor, scientist, and podcast host. And if you're here to learn. One of the things, first of all, I specialize in Black health and well-being, but the topic that I nerd out about everything is Black identity development. It's what I do research on. It's what has always interested me. It's also something that I would say will be something that I kind of had a query about for my entire life. I would say, like, when I think of identity development when it comes to your culture, it's not only the connection to your culture, but it's also the ever evolving question of the right or wrong way to be Black. And that is always like something that had boggled my mind because I grew up in Philly and I remember each and every time to this day that I was told that I talk white. Like and honestly, I would say, other than one time, every single time was by a family member. Every single time was by a family member. And I think the older I got, and the more, you're older and you have these like really intense and intellectual conversations, the more I realized that this was a pretty typical conversation that most people had, like, being told that they talk right, or whether it's like overt or covert, the way of saying like this is the right way to be Black. Everyone's heard the term like that's a white thing to do. And always just being so curious about like who gets to define what Blackness is. Because I am at an age now. First of all, I talk the same exact way I've always talked. I have not changed the way I talk at all. And most people, when they approach me, they'll say, "Oh, Dr. Martin's like blackity, black, black, black." And I'm like, "For real?" Because a decade ago, no, not a decade ago. Y'all, I'm forgetting how old I am. I am 36. Lord, I still consider myself to be a child. I am a child. Like, the fact that I have children is insane. How? But like, let's say 2 decades ago. Yeah. Because I definitely remember being told I talk white at 16. But like 2 decades ago, it would have been like, "Oh, you like talk white, right?" But now, always getting told like blackity, black, 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 blackity, black, 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 and unapologetic. So I always think it's so interesting, this whole thought process of the pressure to be the right kind of Black. And even like, what is the right kind of Black? I've always been under the thought process that if you're Black and you're having an experience, you're having a Black experience. I've also been under the impression and always thought that like you can't be pro-Black if you're only pro-Blackness that mirrors your own, right? Like, if I was only pro-Black professional or pro-Black doctor, I'm not pro-Black, right? If I was only pro-Black cisgendered heterosexual women, I'm not pro-Black, right? And I've always seen it that way. But there's so many people who don't, who feel as though we should be putting on a specific front. There's one appropriate way to be Black. And if you're not you're not Black enough. Like, it doesn't count in the first place. And let's not even get to the point of like people who's have like integrate multiple cultures within being brought up, right? Like, so I've always like this, it's always been a topic that has interested me. And it also comes out a lot of times when I'm dealing with my clients in therapy, right? Like, internalized feelings that they're not Black enough because they were told that, or they just feel it and they don't know where it comes from. And there's also the fact that we're often pressured to, I would say, like, sublimate our culture in the first place. Like, something as simple as code switching or masking. Now, let me say something. I might start doing these episodes where I say, if you get nothing else from this episode, you take this with you. If you get nothing else from this episode, please, for the love of God, I need you to understand the difference between code switching and masking. Like, I bet you thought I was going to say something way more intense. I'm not. This is just something that really irritates me. I'm a very big person on words. Words are important. Words mean things. And I need y'all to use the right words, okay? Code switching only refers to language. Code, back in the day when I was learning about, SAT words, we break down the word. Code refers to language. Switching refers to back, like back and forth. You're just switching language. Like going back and forth, dialect, whatever. That's it. It may be the tone. It may be like, my work laugh versus my typical laugh is like a cackle that like shakes your whole body. Half the time it's like, you gasp for air. You got to walk around to get the full laugh out. Like, that's my typical laugh. I'm loud. I'm always going to be loud. It's never going to change. So that's different, code switching. But masking is very different. Masking is what I find most people doing. Masking is like creating a whole avatar, a whole new person. Your laugh is different, your clothes are different, your tone is different, all of that. And the reason why it's important to know the difference between masking and code switching is masking is a significant risk factor for increased suicidal ideation, loss of identity, anxiety, depression, burnout. Because you keep putting a mask on, it's harder to take it off. Think about, Jim Carrey and the mask. You keep putting it on, it's harder to take it off. And in addition to drinking your water and getting your vitamins and getting your sun and getting your son through your walks and engaging with people appropriately and checking in on family members and doing your job, you also have to do that while engaging in behaviors and tones and wearing clothes and straightening your hair that's not even you, like, and dealing with the stressors of the world. The fact that I have to drink 64 ounces of water and pay bills at the same time. God, like, why? The other day, Russell had said he was hungry, and I was so tired. I was like, I'm not. I'm about to go to sleep. Then I was like, oh wait, you only eat when I feed you, right? My bad. That's what I want to say sometimes. You're hungry? I'm not. I'm going to bed. I'm gonna have sleep for dinner. Let me know let me know let me know what you figure out. Stay away from the knives. But you can't do that, right? Like, so everyone's dealing with so many different things. And imagine dealing with that while also feeling the pressure to behave in a certain way that's not unique to you. Think about the fact that, like, there's this act called the Crown Act, which is against hair discrimination. How many cultures have to have legislation passed so that they're not discriminated against for the way the hair comes out of their head? Like, it's absurd, right? This is why so many people are experiencing burnout. This is why so many people may feel as though there's like one right or wrong way to be Black. Because sometimes it can just be, it's like, who do you think you are? You don't have to code switch. There's a right way for us to be in this environment. Don't you come in here scaring all these white folks, So I think sometimes people say that as like an envy. It's like a knee-jerk reaction because they're working so hard to conform to an environment that was never meant to support them in the first place, that you coming in this environment, being your comfortable and authentic self, is like an affront to them. They're kind of like, who do you think you are in the first place to be able to do that? I can't do that. And to those people, I would say, who told you you had to act this way? It's exhausting. There's so much to do every single second of the day that I truly try to find ways to make my life easier, and hopefully the lives of those around me easier. I've always been told that, like, I talk fast, which I do, and my processing speed is fast, which it is. But one of the reasons I think that is because I don't really use any mental energy, changing who I am. I don't particularly care. Like, you gonna like me for who I am or you gonna dislike me for who I am. Either way, it's gonna be for who I am. Now, mind you, I used to code switch and mask with the best of them. I remember this moment in my PhD program, when I was eloquently and appropriately arguing a thought with a younger student. I was the TA in the class, and they called me aggressive. Didn't raise my voice. I was actual factual citations, all of that. I was also the person who had been in this school longer than you, and called me aggressive, and like did what I normally do at that moment, like, went left, cry in the bathroom. I might have cried in my car because, like, the worst thing I want to do is let these mother flippers see me cry. But then afterwards, I feel like it was like an awakening of, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Individuals who really feel as though, like, it's kind of like I can't drop my weapon when my skin is with fear. People who want to see you as aggressive rather than see your passion and your fervor, your dedication to something, will always see you that way. And I will say, in that day, a monster was born. Like, that's my origin story. And if I ever see you, I will never forget you. I know exactly who this person was. It was a man too. I'll never forget that. Like, that was legit my origin story. I literally was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I do. It does not matter what I do. There's no right or wrong way to be Black. I'm just Black. And, like, that's going to be something that they have an issue with. So I'm going to just do me. Like, I'm going to do me. You can do you. We just not going to do it together. But I really encourage people to think about it that way too. Because I think even while listening to this, I bet you most people can think about the time that they were told, to tighten up. Don't embarrass these white folks. Don't scare the white folks. You may be talking white. And I always think that it's important to when we're thinking about oppression, when we're thinking about these messages, we also have to think about who do these messages serve? Like, who does it serve to sever the Black community so much that we question each other instead of questioning them? Who does it serve to make people think that there's one right way to be, and instead of being themselves, which takes less energy, and having that other energy to I don't know, fight oppression? Who does it serve for us to like have this infighting? Anytime, I think I did this video a while back because I did this talk on this live with the How Married Are You podcast. And the number of times I got called aggressive was absurd. Now, the How Married Are You podcast has a significant amount of Black audiences. Like, I think their key demographic or their target, I don't know if it's their target, but the majority of the demographic is Black people. So I was getting called aggressive by Black people, and mostly now, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was absurd. And I made a video, and like one of the things I said was like, when you think about like calling me aggressive, like when you were calling me aggressive, is it because I like said something wrong? Is it because I was direct? Or is it like you just had a knee-jerk reaction to someone behaving in a way that you were always told that you couldn't behave? Or was always like, not only told you couldn't behave this way, but also penalized for behaving this way? Like, is it an affront to you to see someone, go far? Because I think I do pretty well for myself in exhibiting all the behaviors and the mannerisms that you were told would never allow you to get that far, right? Like, I encourage people to think that way. Like, if you're like, well, no, there is one right or wrong way to be Black. To who? Like, who gets to determine that? Like, who gets to say that, like, that's the right way to be Black? Why do they get to say that? If I'm Black and I'm having an experience, it's a Black experience. And we always say this point of like, Blackness isn't a monolith, but in the same way, wanting to see your Blackness in this one particular way, right? Like, it's like, I feel like there was a conversation back in the day about Zora Neale Hurston and James Baldwin. I don't know if they ever made up about like the way that they manifest their Blackness. I think at one point, I remember teaching in my Psych of the Black Experience course, we had discussions about like Spike Lee and Tyler Perry. And I go to like film and media and books because a lot of times those are representations of the time. And the biggest conversation is like, what's the right way to be Black? James Baldwin and Zora Neale Hurston both wrote about significant Black experiences, but their books are very different. Spike Lee and Tyler Perry do films about the Black experience from their perspective, but they're both very different films. Like, who gets to decide? Like, do we really, in your mind, do you really feel like there's Black people aren't a monolith? And like, how do you support that? Because you may say that you don't think Black people are a monolith, but then anytime an experience or media or a book shows an experience of Blackness that's different than yours, you're like, that is not Black. And it's like, well, I think it is, because like they're speaking to their individual experience. So like, think about if a non-Black person said it, would you still be okay with the statement? Right? Like, if a non-Black person walked up to Raquel and said, you talk right, would you be okay with that? Like, if a non-Black person came up to you and said the things that you say all the time about Blackness, would you be okay with it? Do we really think like the harm to the Black community in terms of our relationships with each other is only caused by people out externally, like in the first place? I don't think so. I think one of the things about oppression is that like oppressors have always played the long game, right? Which is why our liberation and freedom talks need to play the long game as well. But like, you only have to tell someone that they're aggressive or they're the wrong kind of Black or they're abrasive or they're unworthy 5 times. They will tell themselves that the 6th. It's internalized oppression. But it's important to realize that internalized oppression evolved from injected oppression. Like, you wouldn't have a vaccine in your body. We pro-vaccine here, y'all. You wouldn't have a vaccine in your body. You wouldn't have internalized the medicine unless it was injected. I think the anti-Black conversations and the one right way to be Black is the same thing. And we really have to think about like what we're doing with the community by having those messages, right? Like, I think you get to write your own definition of what professional is. I don't think you need to shrink your Blackness to fit individual standards. I'll see so many conversations about imposter syndrome. And I'll say this a million times. I haven't seen a Black person or met a Black person thus far who has had imposter syndrome. I've met many Black people who have a justified reaction to an oppressive environment. Why would I feel like I belong in this workplace when your policies, the way you talk to me, like the way you treat me shows that you don't want me to be here? And it's interesting because if you say imposter syndrome, a lot of times people feel as though they have to work internally within themselves to work on that. But if you say a justified reaction to the oppressive environment, you feel like you got to address the environment, right? Like, I feel like it's a scapegoat. I think it's also important to think of ways that you affirm your whole self. We have so many intersecting identities. I'm black, but I'm a black woman. I'm a black woman that's a millennial. I'm a black woman millennial that's a doctor who's a mother. And there are certain places that affirm me differently. And I think one of the reasons why it's so easy to mask and code switch is that we have difficulty affirming our whole and full selves, right? Like thinking about the fact that like even a simple affirmation of like I'm not too much, I'm just enough, and feeling comfortable with that. And I would also encourage people who feel like this pressure the right way to be black. I will say I'm not over here trying to get you fired. Like I'm not about to say walk in there, do that. Look, that's not what I'm trying to do. I think that you can have small steps to becoming more comfortable in your skin. And that doesn't have to start with changing everything at one moment in time, because especially in any economy, ain't nobody trying to get you fired. Dr. Murray did not say go up in there, call them everything but a child of God. I'm just saying we have to acknowledge that taking small steps to, one, walk away from the conversation about the right way to be black, and two, walk closer to the conversation about understanding that like these things sever our community and impact the way we're able to engage with the world. By taking small steps with that, you honestly will be, I don't want to say productive because productivity isn't everything, but you'll be able to live a more present life. Like you'll be able to be more comfortable in your own skin. And I will keep saying that it's hard to extend compassion for others past which you extend to yourself. It's the reason why sometimes like being called aggressive, some people, I don't know. I was about to say spit in the face, but like spitting, my mother always said spitting is the nastiest thing you could ever do. It's like, it makes people feel some kind of way of like, who told you you could do that? And whenever people act that way, I always think like, well, who told you you couldn't in the first place? So it's not always like, some people say stuff just because it's like a knee-jerk reaction to the injected and internalized oppression that's been rampant in them for so long, that they're not even aware of it until it comes out. But I feel like we can challenge that as a community. So even starting with asking yourself, how many spaces are you in where you feel like you don't have to mask? Like say you're at work 60 hours a week, which sounds like a lot when I say it, but I actually think that's most people's normal, unfortunately. And you have to mask like those entire 60 hours. And then you come home and you're so exhausted from that. You get the Sunday sads. You don't want to engage with people. Weekends become less restorative. And it's just exhausting. And imagine if like step by step, instead of masking for 60 hours, you go from like 59, 58, 4, 50, and get to the point where you feel more comfortable being yourself. Because I in no way think that more black people want to be entrepreneurs. Like I don't think all black people want to be entrepreneurs. I think people decided to create their own environments because they were sick of trying to conform to ones that were never meant for them and were very open about the fact that they didn't want them there. So they decided to be entrepreneurs because no one wakes up and says, oh, forget working, 40 hours a week. I'm going to work 120. Because that's what entrepreneurship is. It really is working a ridiculous amount of time. I think people use it as a way to kind of make sure that at least their work environments would be receptive and welcoming to them. And it's because it's just so important. So I would also state if work can't be that space and you're working towards that, take time to maybe think of an exit strategy, but also try to build spaces, like not just in terms of like the safe space, but build spaces that feel like more home to you. And that can also be people. Like there are people who like when you're around them, you automatically feel your blood pressure going down. Try to, spend more time with those people. And if you don't have those individuals around you, try to build that. Like family of origin and family of choice are comparable to me. There are plenty of people who weren't born into families that deserve them. I know we have all these conversations and pop the balloon challenges about, finding your romantic relationship. But one thing that I have noticed more and more with clients and with people is that they're actually looking for friends. Like more people are looking for their friends. Which is understandable because it's a significant, unique, and not unique, but protective factor to just be able to be around someone who feels seen. Because there's not always going to be you can't solve every single problem, but sometimes you don't need like solutions. Sometimes you just need support, right? Like sometimes you just need to be able to say what you need to say and feel seen and be validated in that sense. And that's also true with like your Blackness. Because at the end of the day, this whole realm of respectability politics is just going to hurt us. Those individuals will, if they don't want to see us as worthy, it's never gonna happen in the first place. So you might as well see me as unworthy when me talking the way I talk. I mean, you're gonna dislike me anyway. I'm gonna give you a reason. Like I'm serious though. Like, you know, like I'm very much be like, I mean, you wasn't gonna like me no way, so I want you to dislike the full me. Yeah, yeah. I want you to I think I'm gonna earn that with you. You're not gonna like me anyway, so I'm gonna put my full self out there. I want you to dislike all of me. Okay. But yeah, I would say take the time to think about like who this whole conversation about who's the right kind of black, who it serves. I remember that whole conversation with Issa Rae about just one of them days and people stating that like she should have never wrote the movie or been one of the writers on the movies because I don't know any time when there's one writer on the movie. But because she was from the suburbs and lived in Senegal for a certain amount of time and speaks multiple languages, that like she can't have a movie about a black experience. And just me like, I remember looking at these videos like, are you okay? Like you're clearly not okay. But like who gets to who gets to be the czar of blackness? Like who do we pick? Who do we get to pick on this? Who choose? Who gets to do it? And who's the blackest person you know? Who gets to do that? And if there are multiple people, do they just like fight and we choose the person? Like do we, like just, and I know it sounds absurd, but that's how y'all sound. That's how when people make these conversations, I'll just be like, right. So, I mean, just to confirm, to make sure I'm not saying anything wrong, where's the test for blackness? Because I seem to have missed my sitting time for that test, because that's how it really sounds. And then all it does is breaks up the community that we're trying to form in the first place. We're at a time where we need community coalitions more than anything. And I will also say most of the time the conversations are a waste of time. Like in a time where we really need to build coalitions and figure out how we're going to serve our community. These waste of time conversations truly make you want to flip a table, because it's just like, oh, they're not black enough, right? Flint doesn't have clean water, so like when you're ready to like, like when you're ready to talk about important things, oh, she should have never wrote that movie because she's not black enough, right? They're about to get rid of the Department of Education and school lunches. So yes, let's talk about whether they're black enough. Like I conversation just for conversation, like it doesn't make any sense. Anyone who, if you're new here, you'll get the gist of like every single episode we have tangible tips. Every single episode we break down the issue. Every single episode we talk about how to move forward. The talking just for talk's sake, I think it's unnecessary. I will say the things that contribute to the detriment of the world in the past 5 years, I would say like it goes like racism, environmental issues, and the increase of microphone sales. Now, I'm not saying that's in any apparent order. You know what I'm saying? But like, yes, your message is valid, but do I need to hear it? You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel with the blackness conversation. I started off very serious, but anytime somebody be like the right kind of way to be black, I'll be like, right. Who are you? Because it's such a stupid conversation to be. Like, come on, y'all. We over here fighting for our lives. The right kind of way to be black. Have some sense. And I'm gonna end on that really positive note. Have some sense. Be kind to yourself. Kinder than I was, because I'm real with you. Sometimes when people get stupid, I get mean. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of those conversations when you get stupid, I get mean. This is not therapy. Don't say nothing about, Dr. Martin, you're a psychologist. Did you receive an invoice from me? No, then this is not session. Sometimes when you get too stupid, I get too mean. And this is one of those conversations where I'll be like, God, I gotta block you. I gotta keep it moving. But yes, be kinder to yourself than the way Dr. Martin treats people who say there's a right or wrong way to be black. 2 steps forward and 1 step back is still 1 step forward. But, you talk about the right, wrong way to be black. That's 3 steps, that's 3 steps backward, 1 step forward. So you're in the negative. Be kind to yourself. And please tune into the next episode.